Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to present the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley, which is a pretty new association that was born this year. It was founded at the beginning of the year by 4 founding members, which were, I'll get back to this in details in a couple of minutes, which were Canton de Vaud, Nestlé, EPFL, and École Hôtelière de Lausanne. But it absolutely is a nationwide Swiss campaign that we launch here, and we're getting more and more members from all the country, like clusters, of course, like the Swiss Food Research, and we're really glad to cooperate with you. So let's begin maybe with a few facts with the next slide, the first slide, facts that you know about. Definitely, if we can get to the next slide. Unfortunately, I can't control them myself, so I hadn't managed to share my screen for technical questions, but we'll deal with this. Well, a few facts you already know, so I'm not going to be too long on these points. It's the challenges food and nutrition is addressing and facing with the 30% of CO2 emissions and all these sustainability challenges you are aware of. Health challenges also, of course. I don't think I need to go through all these this information, especially if I want to stick to timing. I think this is information you know. These are the challenges, and on the next slide we can see all the opportunities that equal with these challenges. We can mention these areas which are precision farming, plant-based proteins, sustainable products, certifications, alternatives to plastic, recycling, microbiome, food waste, alternative to antibiotics, etc., etc. You know also, I guess, about this, and this is just to give an idea of the why. Why are we wanting why did we want to launch the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley? It's mainly to contribute to address these big challenges that food and nutrition industry is facing now. Next slide. So the big picture and objectives of the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley is quite, our mission is simple. Our idea is to develop, strengthen, and promote internationally and in Switzerland, promote the Swiss food and nutrition ecosystem. As I said, it is a nationwide initiative. It doesn't concern only Canton de Vaud, but all cantons that can be concerned by this area. And our intention is to help uniting your stakeholders from farmers to consumers, including, of course, researchers, academics, companies, startups, investors, and all the stakeholders of this area in Switzerland. The objectives of this mission is, of course, as I mentioned, point 1, to contribute to solving some of the most burning food-related global issues, and point 2, which is one of the main objectives of our association, is to attract talents, attract startups, attract investments, attract any kind of talents. It can be PhDs, it can be companies, SMEs, and but mainly I'd say PhDs, talents, and startups to Switzerland. We want any guy on earth who is working in food and nutrition, maybe in Silicon Valley or wherever, to say, hey guys, we must go to Switzerland. This is the place to be if we want to be good in food and nutrition. And while attracting talents, we want as well is to connect existing actors of the ecosystem. This is something absolutely essential. As I mentioned before, there are many various actors from farmers to consumers, and we need to get them connected. And the idea, of course, is to establish Switzerland as a world reference in sustainable food and nutrition innovation. The next slide is to answer mainly people we visit abroad, well, when we could travel, and now we do it by webinars. Why Switzerland? And that's a very good question. Why Switzerland? Because Switzerland is a totally unique ecosystem, a world-class food and nutrition ecosystem. And this is something maybe all you guys know. but that people in Switzerland don't really know. People in the Swiss Parliament don't know either. And as a member of Parliament during 8 years, I can say this is true. And people don't necessarily know this abroad. So we want to promote this ecosystem. There's no other place on earth where you can have so many world-leading class companies such as Bühler, Givaudan, Firmenich, Nestlé, SGS, Syngenta, Lonza. I mean, all of these guys are leaders in their area, and all this in a country which is the size of more or less of the Bay Area, and even the Bay Area doesn't have such a density of leading guys in food and nutrition. So this is something we show a map that always is very interesting. So it is not exhaustive. We didn't mention all the companies, of course not. We couldn't. We didn't mention all the startups either. But this is just to give an example of the density and the quality of our ecosystem. A few Swiss food facts on the next slide is also something you know, so I'm not going to go through this too much in detail. It's mainly something we show to foreign startups, companies investing, reminding that we invest a lot in food and nutrition R&D, and that we are worldwide #1 in innovation, etc., etc. And this is something that is important to remind them when we go visiting guys abroad physically or virtually. So let's come to the what SFNV will do or already does on the next slide. And of course, if you have questions on the slides before, I can answer, but I think it's something you already knew. So SFNV will focus on 4 areas of action mainly. First of all, on the national and the local level, we intend to, as I mentioned, unite and support existing food and nutrition key players. I mentioned uniting them before, but we can also support them if some members of Swiss Food Research want to have an international visibility on some point. We can help them. If they want to have a political impact in Switzerland, we can help them also. If they need help for an event or for communication, we can help. We're there for them. So this is the first mission. The first area of action of FSNV is really being this umbrella and uniting and supporting all the key players. Second point, enhanced ecosystem. The idea here is to strengthen the framework conditions. This is really an important point. Raise awareness in Switzerland on the needs of sustainable and healthy food and nutrition. I've been mentioning awareness in the parliament, which is not absolutely 100%. We can also we have a lot of work to do also with the administration, and we're already started working with them. As you maybe know, Bundesrat Guy Parmelin is a parrain of our association, patron, and we already talked about it with him. And of course, he is really enthusiastic to see how we can get this food and nutrition ecosystem more known and well known in Switzerland and around the world. Third point, on the international level, we will be promoting, of course, the Swiss food and nutrition ecosystem. We already started promoting it. We partnered with Présence Suisse. We cooperate a lot with the Switzerland Global Enterprise, with the Swiss Next network all around the world. And we have already organized webinars with them. And the idea is really to get raising awareness in the best ecosystems around the world, in Singapore, Silicon Valley, or wherever, and trying to convince some of the best talents in these areas to come to Switzerland. And fourth point, content creation, innovation. If we can help developing new projects, we will do it with pleasure. Of course, with the members we have, it would be a pleasure to do it. The idea is not to do things that are already done. We're not going to have a copy of other projects, but to help the ones that exist and maybe launch some that do not exist if needed. So these are the four areas. And if you can see on the next slide, the type of activities we will be concretely, and we have already started concretely organizing for each of these areas. Well, of course, the first activities are kind of on standby. Organizing events is not possible anymore. Taking part in international shows, which was one of our main activities, being in specified future food tech shows, or more general, as we were last year in the Consumer Electronics Show, the CES in Las Vegas. But of course, now we can only do it virtually. We can't travel anymore. We will be supporting and setting up transversal and vertical projects. We can help if we can, for example, the Future Food Initiative or other food verticals that exist. Organize Swiss delegations abroad. This is also not possible now, but for example, we have been talking and mentioning with maybe our embassy in Singapore, having maybe a Swiss delegation next summer if we can travel, since many Swiss companies will have activities in Singapore next year. It's the 40th anniversary of the Nestlé R&D Center. Givaudan Buller will be launching an innovation hub. So maybe if we can, we'll do this. This Swiss delegation in Singapore, well, of course, we'll be organizing meetings with the policymakers, which we already started. We already began having discussions with the Federal Council, with the Federal Administration, of course, with members of Parliament, and of course, also on a cantonal level, which is very important for all economical promotion. And the two last points are very important. Now, this is what we're working on, and I'm going to detail it. We are working on our communication strategy and launching at the end of the month our new website and our new communication strategy. And I propose we detail it in the next slide. These two last points are the most important now, as we are in the digital period, of course, and this is something absolutely essential. Step one of an organization like as ours. We really want to be the place where we can find all information about the Swiss food ecosystem. There'll be a daily news feed launched on our website. There'll be a monthly newsletter also launched around the 24th or 25th of October, if I'm remembering correctly. And in the same time, we'll be launching all our social networks with all this information we'll be gathering. So we've got a editorial team working on it. We've partnered with Food Hack, who's working with us also, and we need to have all information that happens concerning food and nutrition in Switzerland to be the place where we find all this information. You can see on the next slide, this is the way the things will go. We have news, profiles, interviews, webinars, videos, upcoming events, anything you are doing. And when I say you, it's any member of Swiss Food Research. You can just tell us. We collect the latest news, we publish them, we centralize, and then we amplify our content, our social channels, engage in relevant discussions with stakeholders in our industry, and we summarize all this and highlight our members more specifically in our monthly newsletter. So please just tell us. On the next slide, we can see the email address, whatever news you want to share concerning your high school, your academy, your university, your company, or your startup, or what you're working on, news@sfnv.ch, and it will be a great pleasure for us to share and to promote what you are doing the way we can. This is really important for us. We need to know everything that's happening. So don't hesitate. We'll never have too much information. So don't hesitate to write to us. Next slide. And maybe I'm not going to, on the next slide, I already mentioned all these points. I'm not going to be too long on this to keep the timing. Just mention that there are specific advantages for Swiss members and other for international members. I can highlight, for example, for startups that are coming to Switzerland, we can tell them that we will help them and guide them in efficient government services, for example, to have work permits, ease the tax declarations, facilities, access to state funds. We can really be this one-stop shop to help startups coming to Switzerland and see where we can get them and help them to come to Switzerland. And for Swiss members, of course, we offer international visibility and influence, of course, information on our political system for an enhanced ecosystem. And the last word, like that, I'll be precisely on the 20 minutes with our next slide, which is the activity plan and the members who have been joining us. On the up of this horizontal axis, sorry, this slide is kind of a bit complicated, but on the upper part, you've got all the international activities we have planned or done, and on the under the axis, the national activities and the members coming in. So let me mention very quickly on the upper part. We launched and announced our association in January, the World Economic Forum with Guy Parmelin. Then, of course, with COVID, we had to cancel and change all our plans. We had planned to go to San Francisco, Brussels, or Singapore, and we cancelled all this, and we especially worked on which was finally a good occasion to work better on the association creation in Switzerland and getting our new members in. For the activity plan, you can see that we organized the webinar in cooperation with the Japanese economical promotion JETRO. That was the 25th of July. We did another webinar, which had a great success early September with Singapore, giving examples of cooperations between Switzerland and Singapore. And we are planning 2 webinars on the east coast of the United States, Boston Food Age 2020 and Future Food Tech in New York City on December 2nd and 3rd. And we're in the same time, developing a strategy with Swissnex San Francisco to have a complete West Coast strategy for 2021. This is also in cooperation with the Swissnex SGE and the council in San Francisco, who is really helping us. And after, if COVID allows us to have delegations, as I mentioned before, we will surely be in Singapore and in Dubai, where it was planned in the first time, of course, and cancelled and postponed. But we were supposed to have a whole food week in Dubai, and this hopefully will be done next year. And in Switzerland, in the meantime, as I mentioned, we've got new members coming in, Swiss Food Research, most welcome, and we're really glad to have you with us. And it's absolutely, that was for us a first step, absolutely essential, having the 2 main clusters, which are Swiss Food Research and Cluster Food and Nutrition in Fribourg, and both of them are members, and that's great news for us. Firmenich joined, Givaudan is joining, Agroscope joined. Agroscope is a very important partner for us also, and I thank Fabien Wald, of course, also chairman of the Swiss Food Research, who's very actively already cooperating with us, we're organizing a national Swiss Food Day in Bern we want to do during a parliamentary session. This should be in June next year, to raise awareness once again in the parliament on why we need to have better framework conditions for food and nutrition in Switzerland. And ETHZ is not yet a member, but they will join. They announced us, they told us they would be with us soon, and there are discussions with many other companies, of course, Bühler and others who are most welcome and will certainly join us. The quicker, the better. So that's it. I think I stuck to timing. We've got a last slide that is just kind of a summary. The next one, we can just see everything I've said in one slide if you need. And the last slide this time really is to remind you on the next slide to, if you have any question, just send us an email. Our website, sfnv.ch, now is the first version, V1. V2, as I told you, will be launched at the end of October, which will be the real one. And don't forget, if you have news to share, if you have something you want to promote, you want to share, to develop, send it to news@sfnv.ch, and we will do the rest. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open for questions and answers.